Hi, I'm Kevin Eikenberry, and along with Wayne Turmel, I'm the co-author of the book, The Long Distance Leader, Rules for Remarkable Remote Leadership. In this video, we're talking about the second of our 3O model. It's engaging others at a distance. In the last video, we talked about the first O in our 3O model, that being about outcomes. In this video, as promised, we're going to talk about others. Specifically, how do we engage others specifically when working at a distance? See, we believe that leadership is far more about influence than it is about command and control. If you try the command and control approach working at a distance, good luck. Not going to be very successful. We believe that influence is the right path most all of the time. And so if that's the case, there's some nuances that we have to take into account if we want to do that successfully when leading remotely. I want to talk about three things specifically that we think take on additional importance as a leader in trying to engage others. So let's get on with them, shall we? The first is the importance of accountability. Accountability often is viewed by others as a four-letter word, a word that's a negative thing, like I'm going to hold you accountable. And people say, well, how do I hold them accountable if I can't even see them? Well, while we want accountability to be the case, and while we need people to be more accountable when they are working on their own more independently, it isn't just about holding them accountable, it's about helping them be accountable. Which means what? That means setting clear expectations so they know what they are accountable for. Because see, at its heart, accountability is nothing more than ownership. If people feel they have ownership of the work, they will be accountable for the work and to the results. Our job as a leader is always to help people be accountable, but when doing it at a distance, the importance of accountability is heightened. Second, the importance of trust. Trust is a lubricant and a speed agent in any organization. And isn't it easier to find that we can trust people if we're around them, if we see them, if we get to know them? And in fact, trust is built through the credibility that we see and the intention that we know or we assume about other people. And when we're working at a distance and we don't see them, it's like there's a curtain between us and them, and it's harder to build that trust. Our job as a leader is to facilitate the building of that trust between us and those that we lead, of course, but also between those we lead and their peers and others in the organization that they interact with. We have to be vigilant, aware, and thinking about facilitating the growth of trust. We need to be advocating for others when people are assuming the worst or assuming that someone has a negative intent about something. It's our job to do everything we can to help trust build, because we know that when it does, good things will happen. Especially at a distance, it's not going to happen without some help. And it's our job to help provide the environment and the support to help trust grow. Third, the importance of proactive communication. When we're in the same building, we see each other in the hallway. We can pop over someone's cue ball. We can invite them into our office quickly. We see them at the coffee pot. We see them walking into the office from the parking lot, and we've got opportunities to communicate that happen spontaneously and happen without much additional effort or thought. Not so much when our folks are at a distance, when we may not see them literally for weeks or months or longer. We have a responsibility to make sure that the communication that we share is more proactive, that is more effective, and that we're being more intentional about it. So on that third point about proactive communication, before we close this video, I've got 4 ideas to help you do that more effectively so that you leave this video with some very specific action steps that you can take. The first one is reach out, don't wait. If there's something niggling at you, if there's something that you see as being a problem between you and a person or between 2 members of your team, nip it in the bud, as Barney Fife said. You got to reach out now, don't wait. If there's need for correction, do it sooner. If there's opportunity for support or praise or encouragement, do it sooner. Reach out, don't wait. Waiting is seldom gonna help. It's almost always gonna make it harder and make it worse. Next, ask more questions. As a leader, we believe all leaders ought to be great question askers. And yet, when we're working at a distance, this becomes even more important. You see, if my team member picks up the phone to call me and we talk, it ends up being very transactional, doesn't it? They think I'm busy, I think you're busy. There's nothing more than get the work done and move on. And if we want to create more than just that, if we want to understand what's going on for them, we need to ask more questions. We, as a leader, need to be responsible for creating more of a conversation so we can know what's going on and what's working and where they're stuck and how we can help. Ask more questions. Third, use the right media. Have you ever been in an email thread when we're up to like the 6th email in a row and it's a total disaster? Of course you've been there. Whose fault is it? Well, before you start saying, well, it's someone else's fault for what they wrote in the email, I would say part of the fault belongs to the media, because email is not a tool that's suited for conversation. So using the right media is recognizing that if we can't just walk down the hall and have most of the communication be face-to-face, we have to think about using the webcam and using our email and using the phone, and when we do all of those things, and when do we use the software that allows us to share screens and all of that stuff, are we using the right media to communicate what we need to communicate in the way that we need to communicate it most successfully? This requires that we get good at the use of the media, but also good at selecting which one in the right situation. Which leads us to the last point, which is have a plan. If you want to be more proactive communicator, have a plan and work it through with your team. How and when and on what situations are we going to communicate using which media? How often? What's the frequency that we're going to use? And how are we going to make sure that we're in alignment together moving forward so we don't get off on separate tracks, so we don't start to create conflict when it's not necessary? Have a plan. If you do these 4 things, you will be on the path to having more effective communication and on the path for the goal of this whole video to be engaging others more effectively. In the next video, we'll talk about the third O in our 3O model.